What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Try Sign Podcast YouTube channel. I'm Matt, and you join me today for my first, and, well, certainly not the first on the channel, of the 2024 team-by-team Super League predictions. If you didn't see Callum's first one on Wigan, go check that out. Link will be in the box in the top corner. And, yeah, brief summarised introduction. One of these for each team. We're going to take a look at their incomings, outgoings, general thoughts around the squad and the situations at the club ahead of next season. And yeah, stay around, stay tuned, because we're going to do one of these for each team, so subscribe, click the notification bell on to not miss them. And we're going to follow that up with a big Super League preview pod, which will be here on the eve of the season. In terms of upload schedule, slight change to the usual. Pod will remain out on a Wednesday, and we're going to have one of these each Monday and Friday for you in the run-up to the season starting. So without further ado, let's jump into my first of the clubs, and I'm starting with Warrington Wolves. Now, I'm going to start off with their incomings, as there's some big names here that's going to define Warrington's seasons, I believe. The first of those being Lachlan Fitzgibbon. The Australian, nearly 120 NRL first grade games, and he's signed on a 3-year deal at 29 years old. This is one of those forward signings that you're going to think is either going to tear Super League apart, or it's going to be one of the biggest wastes of money in, frankly, the competition's history. And Warrington have had both, let's face it. As much as he can't do it on his own, Paul Vaughan was a great signing when fit, but we all remember what Greg Inglis was, and that was nothing short of a disaster. For the sake of the competition, frankly, I hope Fitzgibbons really settles in well and has a good time at Warrington. We'll obviously discuss them in a bit more detail amongst some of our signs of the season later on in the year. So I'm going to move quickly on to their other two big NRL acquisitions, which is, of course, Zane Musgrove, who arrives from St George Illawarra with a decent number of NRL appearances across his time at St George, Wests and South Sydney. And Roderick Ty, who has been kicking around in the developmental leagues for PNG Hunters and recently broke out into the Cummels international scene, and is somebody who, on a 1-year deal with a point to prove, could be a very, very exciting pickup for Warrington. There are other 3 acquisitions, all Super League based, bit less blockbuster. Sam Powell from Wigan being the most recent, and I don't know, potentially an astute signing, even if a little underwhelming. Jordie Crowther, who of course spent the latter part of last season at the club. Again, solid squad player, won't really set the world alight and didn't either at Warrington or Wakefield last year, but probably not going to let them down too much. And Brad Dwyer, who, after an exciting season at Leeds, even if his distribution did lack, at times it didn't really click for him at Hull FC. And it's perhaps no surprise that Dwyer has sought to rejuvenate his career back at Warrington. In terms of their outgoings then, and this is what's interesting, they've let Riley Dean go to the Mackay Cutters down under, which, considering he was either on the bench or on dual reg at Featherstone, I don't think they'll hugely miss. Greg Minikin dropping to the Championship again with Featherstone. Featured 19 times across 2 seasons. I think they'll be just fine without him. But the big one is, of course, St Helens' 3-year deal for Darryl Clark, who, believe it or not, is still only 30, despite him being around as one of the top-level hookers in the competition for probably the best part of a decade now. And that's maybe, I think, where Warrington you look at and say they have got weaker. It is that hooking role. Now, I am a big fan of Danny Walker. Whether or not he's quite ready to take the number 9 shirt, I'm not sure. Definitely the 24 years old, homegrown player. He will be somebody that the club will look to mould into that role, and I think will be just fine in the long term. My questions come more in terms of Powell, who is defensively very good, ball handling very good, just lacks that bit more pace out of the ruck. And Dwyer, who is almost the polar opposite, is electric out of the ruck, causes chaos with his runs, but doesn't always have the distribution to find the right man at the end of it. And of course, the big thing at Warrington heading into this season is their new coach, Sam Burgess. A bit of an unproven quantity in the coaching market. it's fair to say that change was needed, especially following Daryl Powell's universally regarded failure at the club and a couple of underwhelming years now. And I'm not sure whether we're going to see that straight away. It's a tough one because Burgess will need time to really hone his craft, but at the same time Warrington have a history of starting the season really strong and fading. So it will be really interesting to see whether that's something that we see again this year, or actually whether they will be a bit more of a slow burner, perhaps in line as their coach progresses. One thing I am hearing at the time of recording, but I haven't seen confirmed by the club yet, is that reportedly Sam Cassiano is parting ways with Warrington. Now, like I said, this hasn't at the time of recording been confirmed by the club or anyone in any sort of, reputable position that would know inside scoop on the matter. But actually, if he does go, and this is true, I genuinely think that will be a bit of a blessing in disguise for Warrington. Cassiano is, of course, one of their most likely biggest earners following his big move from Catalans, and generally is in one of the vital overseas quota spots who, frankly, after 5 minutes, is not really delivering the same sort of impact that you'd expect from that kind of money. And I think freeing him up could be, frankly, a really good piece of business, especially considering I believe it's the last year of his contract, and he's got, is it a wrist injury that's keeping out until the midway of the season? Seems perfectly sensible if they've managed to agree to part ways with Cassiano before the season starts. It's going to free up that bit of money, going to free up that overseas quota, and actually it's going to give some of their other players a bit of a chance to shine even. Just look at your underrateds, like your James Harrison, who will wear the number 8 this season for Warrington. Fantastically underrated player. And I think that's generally the case with Warrington, full stop. There's a lot of star quality in there. You only have to look at the likes of Matt Duffy, who's got, years of NRL experience under his belt. You've got the Super League stars, George Williams, Stephen Ratchford. Toby King, of course, back from winning the grand final at Wigan. That's going to revitalise their centre position following Peter Matauti's retirement at the end of last season. And then you've got the youngsters in all this who will be looking to really show their worth. I mean, Maddie Ashton at 25 and Josh Shoeless at 21 is a very exciting set of wingers. Throw, like you said, the likes of Roderick Ty at just 25 in there. You've got other great players such as Connor Wrench in that centre at 22. There's a lot of youth coming through at Warrington. And actually, there's a real core here in this team that's not too old. And they will be just starting to mature like a fine wine. If Burgess can hone his craft over the next couple of years and Warrington keep hold of these players, that is a really deadly back line they've got right there. They need to recruit in the right areas to fill those shortfalls, but like I say, a team in 3-4 seasons' time of Danny Walker, Maddie Nicholson, Ashton, Thewlis, even Toby King will still be going strong at that age. That's quite exciting. And I, for one, am looking forward to see what that future actually brings. But what about this season? I think it will be an improvement for Warrington. I think they will be in the playoffs this year. I don't think they've got the legs to go all the way. You will find out exactly where I put them in the Super League predictions podcast coming up in the next few weeks. And I'm conscious I've already probably done the longest one of these so far on one of arguably the more boring teams heading into this season. So I'm going to wrap this up. Subscribe, put the notification bell on, and stay tuned for the other, 9, 10 of these still to go. See you next time, guys. Goodbye.